Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're gonna be reacting to
8 American habits that confused me as a Brit.
Put it on my knee, yeah. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to habits, specifically American habits that confused me when I first moved to the United States. And I'm not talking about things like picking your nose, because I think we all do that. Most of you do that, I think, is what I've heard. I'm talking about habits that seem to be culturally
that's
ingrained
supposed
in
to be in the
America and not so
bathroom,
much in Britain. One such habit is that Americans tend to be more direct. And so
like
in the
in the
interest of a
car, picking, and you turn to see the neighbor picking it. No,
You both picking and looking at each other, picking your noses, okay?
simulation,
No.
I'm going to do likewise. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, here are 8 American habits that confused me as a Brit. Alright, so I was already prepared for this one just because, you know, we watch a lot of American films back in Britain. But when my new American relatives and or friends started calling me things like buddy and pal, there was a weird novelty to it. I can't really explain it. It's
And
like
here in Florida is a lot of Caribbean, so they call you boss.
Yeah, boss. Here is
Oh, chief.
boss. Yeah, it's boss. But it's just the same as mate in UK, I think. So
Yeah.
here's buddy.
like how I've said before, you know, how I always thought yellow school buses were simply a trope of American films. To some degree, you start thinking that about everything, and words like buddy and pal fell into that category. Growing up in Britain, where the equivalent word is mate, it took some getting used to, and I also noticed that just like with the word mate, both buddy and pal can be used in an affectionate way and a not so affectionate way.
Yeah.
An example would be if an American hasn't seen you in a long time, they might say, "Hey buddy, what's up?" Because, you know, they think I'm a dog. On the other hand,
That's
if you
his
took their car
American
seat, they'll look at
accent.
you with that steely expression on their face and say, "I called shotgun, buddy." And, you know, this happens all the time. It could mean that I'm just an arsehole. It's probably that. Now, I can't say that this goes for all immigrants that move to the United States, but one thing that I've experienced a lot is Americans saying, "I love your accent." Did you order that online? It is a common question that I get from people. You know, "Ooh, you sound just like..."
Did you order that online?
Mm-hmm.
People say that about accents?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that before.
The Geico
Like,
get
I heard that, oh, I love your accent, but I never heard, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
did you order that online? What?
Can I just put you in the corner and have you speak to me all day? And yes, those are real things that have been said
To
to
me, when
but,
I first met you, I thought you sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
you know, in some ways it's good because it's an icebreaker. I'm an introvert. I don't want to just, you know, think of things to say. And so if they want me to say words like water, tomato, and banana, it's an easy enough
Yeah.
paycheck. They get a good
Say
giggle out of it,
hamburger.
and I never have to see them again. Coffee
Hamburger.
is a huge
That's
thing
not
over
how you
here,
used to
and of
sound.
course they drink
I
it in
always say
cups that are as big as this one right here. Because not only do pound for pound Americans drink more coffee than British people, they also drink them, on the whole, in bigger cups. Now, I never used to drink coffee, that is, when I was in Britain. So I didn't previously have a point of comparison between the coffee cups in this country and those in Britain. But you know, a few years ago, the wife and I went to Paris, and then we went to England just recently, and it dawned on me, the cups over there, on the whole, are smaller. The default that they will give you for just a latte are like there, you know, they're small. In some ways, that's good because it sort of promotes responsible caffeine intake. On the other, when I was in Britain, instead of just ordering one small coffee like that, I'd get 3 of them. That's why I was jet lagged the whole time. I've just realised that. And you might say, well, but that's not really to do with American habits, that's just what's on offer. But even I, now, as an American citizen, do have the habit of just ordering a grande. And I think the real habit that Americans do more than Europeans is taking this with you on the go, through the park, a little saunter around the shopping mall, which is probably
We've seen that in Italy, that they say they don't do it. They drink a lot of coffee, but they don't drink it like in the to-go cups. That's the difference, I guess.
where you bought this. And I think that even though Britain is starting to catch up in terms of its coffee culture, there's still quite a wide difference between the coffee
I do think for me growing up, obviously my hometown, yeah, there wasn't any cafe places like that to take to go cups, so nope. But you know, in Vilnius, when I was in school, the it girls would bring the coffee cups.
Oh.
That would be like, you know,
Yeah.
the it girl thing. Yeah.
drinking habits of
Regular people, maybe not so much, but I think the it girls and like the young professionals would kind of like adopt the American culture a little bit.
the two peoples. And the part of me that really loves my convenience likes to walk down the street with a coffee in my hand. But on the other, I don't like to give in to this societal pressure of always needing to be busy and on the go. So I mostly just drink it in the bath. Americans have this big habit of using the word right in ways that other people don't. And I'm not just talking about politics, I'm talking about the way in which it's used in sentences.
Yeah, right. I use it a lot.
First of all, there is this thing Americans do when they want to show agreement with another person, where they say, I know, right? Or they might just abbreviate that question/sentence to just, right? And it's sort of infectious. It's the sort of thing that, you know, in my early days in the US, I found myself saying again and again and again, until I remembered that I'm a bit of a contrarian, and since everybody else was doing it, I had to stop doing it. But there's another use of the word right that I think I've also been guilty of, where they'll use it almost like an interjection. So for example, my management team might say something like, Lawrence is the next big thing, right? He's smart, he's talented, he's the third sexiest man alive. And while statistically a third of that is true, the important part here is that my management team remembered to stick the word right in there so that you wouldn't stop listening. On the other hand, it's hours and not miles. That's right, in Britain, if we talk about the distance from point A to point B, we'll typically say it's a certain amount of miles, as opposed to kilometers. But this is not a conversation about imperial versus metric. This is merely me giving the British perspective so that I can contrast it with the fact that a lot of the time, Americans, when they tell me how long it takes to get from, say, Chicago to Indianapolis, it isn't a couple of hundred miles, it's 6 hours.
Yeah,
That's because
time.
That is
Naturally.
true. That is true. Yeah, and in
Naturally.
Lithuania, it's the distance. It's not time. It's like you say kilometers, and then if you say also how long that's gonna take, then you're gonna say the time.
What if so for a distance like 5 minutes away, how you would say
How many meters? Because that's like
really?
a walking distance. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-mm.
Yeah, this is true. Here, it's distance is measured in time.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
we often
Never
stop
thought
at a
about
dog
it.
park. Maybe this is a result of the fact that Americans drive longer distances, and so they need to know that time. Because sometimes you can drive so long in the US that you actually need to stop for the night and, you know, book a motel. The time becomes more important, I suppose, to a potential commute. I still prefer to go by the bigger number, which is the distance, and therefore is more impressive to me. But to each his own. I didn't know whether to put this one in for a while, and then I thought about it and realized that there's actually many different facets to this particular entry, and that entry is this: Americans will use parking lots as death traps. Now, I have a caveat here. This is by no means all Americans. It's very specific ones. When I worked in the call center, I used to get a ride from someone who lived in the local area. And one day, it had been snowing really bad outside, and she decided, hey, British person with your naive ways, have you ever done a 360-degree skid in a car park? Although she wouldn't have said car park. And I thought she was joking. You know, it'd been a long day of people yelling at us, until she did it just there in the partially empty parking lot, and we span around. I thought I was about to die and or be deported, and she was laughing her head off. At first, I thought this was an isolated incident, until some teenagers started drifting, as it's known, in the car park to my local school. You might say, oh, Lawrence, great, you've cherry-picked a part of your memory bank to make it seem as if things like this happen all the time. They don't, but parking lots are a place in which I've seen differences in people's awareness of other cars. In Britain, and this may have changed in the smartphone era, if you're walking into one of the big stores from a car park, you're usually hyper-aware of any cars that may be behind you, trying to get out. So you walk at the side, right up against any cars here, and you do so at a speed that is slightly above walking pace. In America, those people on foot are not always in such a rush. Like, you could be in your car trying to drive this way, and there's like 2 people walking really slowly there, and they don't care. It's not been bred into Americans to care. I talked a few weeks ago about the British.
I don't remember how it is in Lithuania, but here, here in the States, yes, some people don't care. Some people do. I think it's about just individuals. I don't know. I wouldn't say that there is like majority of people don't care or majority of people do care. I think it really depends. There's people that they are aware of their surroundings, and there's people that don't care.
Yeah.
I think it's just people to person to person basis on this one.
Tendency to want to save the face of other people, to not put them out. This is a generalization. It's not true of everyone, but it does exist nonetheless. Americans don't necessarily have that approach to society, and I think this is perfectly embodied by their approach to exiting a parking lot. Here's a habit that sorry. Here's a habit that I feel like I've picked up since being here. Americans, if they have access to vacation days, which is not always a given, will take those vacation days, but still occasionally work on those vacation days, even if it's just a light email or two. And I feel like when I was in England recently, I told myself, no work, no work, no way, Jose. I'm just going to go and enjoy the countryside and a plate of fish and chips and come home. I did do some filming, and I had 3 plates of fish and chips to make up for it. But this tendency among some American workers.
Yeah,
He was cutting out the bed.
yeah, we reacted to that video. Yeah.
Workers with whom I've worked was quite jarring. I think in Britain, where we are given, I think it's 28 days of paid leave a year, we value that time, I think.
Wow, 28, the whole month. Still, that's a long time.
We value our holidays. We see the importance of rejuvenation, and that importance isn't just toward your physical well-being, it also improves your job performance. And so this American habit of working beyond regular hours is one that's born out of a society where it's almost shameful not to work hard, to put in the hours, to go above and beyond just to get
that's
that
the bad
promotion.
thing.
I got burned out doing that at the call center, partly because
I guess, maybe in the career, like the corporate ladder, maybe that's what he's describing. But like in regular people, the ones that work 9 to 5, it's not shameful. Nobody cares. You're just there to get the paycheck and leave.
to deal with people, but partly because I just didn't have a life. So when I took vacation time at that company or other companies, I really took that vacation time. It's only since I became a bona fide YouTube sensation that I found myself doing occasional work on holiday. I think it's easier when you love your job, but it doesn't mean that rest isn't important, which is why you should stay tuned until the end of this video to watch my take on why British and American sleep time is very different. And I put this one in
Oh,
because
yeah,
I
we
didn't
see
want this
this
video
one.
to feel like it was a complete slam against America and American life. I don't feel particularly negative toward most of these habits, and this is especially
Yeah, I didn't get that he's being negative. He's just outlining the
yeah.
habits. I didn't.
He does a good job of like expressing two different worlds.
Yeah. I don't feel like he was being negative at all.
true of this one, which is more of an anti-habit. It's about chewing gum. Now, when I think of chewing gum, I think of Americans for some reason. But I noticed something when I was in Britain, and it was this, that the pavements, or as they're known here, sidewalks, were pretty littered, especially in downtown areas, with chewing gum. It occurred to me at that moment that I hadn't really seen a chewing gum-laden sidewalk on that level since I lived in Britain. This was a common sight, just walking down a downtown street. In America, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, gum spitters are everywhere. But with the exception of occasional cracks in the sidewalk, they always seem to be a bit more clean than the ones in Britain. And so I've put this in here because I want to ask the question, is that because Americans have a good habit of not spitting out chewing gum as much as British people?
They swallow it.
Is it because they replace the sidewalk every now and again? So those are just some of the habits that confused me when I first moved to America. Let me know
I've
in
seen
the
people
comments if you...
scrape off the gum off
Yeah,
the
I have
concrete.
seen the people that do scrape it off, but at the same time, not many people litter here too. Like I think if it's more like when you think of littering, it's more in terms of somebody brings their old furniture and just leaves somewhere like where it's gonna get picked up, because it costs money to get rid of big stuff. Whereas like just regular trash, throwing it, and just like somewhere, I have seen it. Yes, not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not. I would say it's not as common as in Lithuania. So. No, that again, that's just my experience. Doesn't make it, fact or anything like that.
It really depends too, because I've seen like people they'll eat but leave all the trash on the table.
At this like a McDonald's and whatnot. Yeah, I have seen that too. But no, McDonald's have people that pick it up. So.
Oh, but the trash is right there.
It is, but I think that's just how someone is raised. I think no matter where you go, it's gonna be all kinds of people. People that are raised properly and the ones that don't have no manners.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Rate, like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. Share as much kindness as possible.